Mexico, Paula, Leanne, Carolyn, Ruth. We've got a great crew that's here. So we're going to just be kicking things off in just a few short seconds here. Remember, if you're watching this inside the Facebook group, the feed is about to end. You want to head to the link that you see on my screen right now. You want to go to your browser, type that URL in. It is quizfunnel.com, QUIZFUNNEL, singular, not plural, quizfunnel.com. Head to that link and we're going to be kicking things off. Hello and welcome back to this live quiz funnel workshop. My name is Ryan Levesque and this is session 2 where we're going to be talking about the big idea behind your quiz. And if you're just joining us right now, we've covered a lot of ground in this workshop so far, but it's not too late to be joining. In fact, over 25,000 people have joined this quiz funnel workshop in this last week alone, and the numbers keep growing. So you're in good company if you're here right now, and we've got a lot of great stuff that we are going to be covering. As a friendly reminder, for the full experience, I highly recommend that you watch this, experience this, and participate in this workshop either on a laptop or a tablet like an iPad. A phone is not going to give you the ability to comment on this page. It's not going to give you the ability to download all the resources. So you want to make sure that you're on a laptop, that you are on a tablet to get the most out of this. And you also want to make sure that you've got something to take some good notes with. We're going to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. And you want to make sure that you've got a pen and paper handy, or if you've got a device you like to take notes with, have that handy so you can get the most out of our experience here today. Once again, this is the second session in our quiz funnel workshop, and today we're going to be talking about the big idea behind your quiz. We're going to talk about how to come up with your big idea, because this is where it all starts. It all starts with coming up with the big idea behind your quiz. We're going to talk about the 3 types of quizzes and how to figure out which of these 3 types is right for you. I'm even going to show you how to test your quiz idea before you even build or create or launch your quiz to ensure that you're setting yourself up for success and you have the greatest chance of succeeding possible. So I'm even going to go through some live examples handpicked from this community here to really bring the process to life and show you this process in action. And we got a lot more in store today. So we got a lot to cover. And if you're just joining us right now, do me a favor in the comment thread, say hello, and let me know where in the world you're watching this from and what time it is right now. I know we're here at all times of the day. I know some of you are watching this in the middle of the night. Some of you are here early in the morning. Some of you in the middle of the day. And I love to recognize and acknowledge all my diehards and everyone who's been here. And if you've been here since the beginning, if you were in session 1, the first session of this workshop, let me know by typing the word session 1 to show me that you've been here since the very beginning. And if you're just joining right now, that's great. Let us know that you're just joining and you can post in the comments. Now, one of the reasons why I'm kind of getting you geared up for some engagement is there will be some live participation and exercises that we're going to be going through here together today. So this is just a little bit of a warm-up to get you ready, to get you going. And as you may have heard when I mentioned yesterday and the day before in the first session of this workshop, there are prizes for participation. So the more you participate, the better chance you have to win. So keep that in the back of your mind, and we'll go from there. Okay, with that being said, looking at my notes right here, a few housekeeping things that I want to mention before we get started. So we talked about being on a laptop or tablet to get the most out of this. That's number 1. Number 2, if you're not already inside the Facebook group, you want to make sure that you are inside that Facebook group as well. The link for that is quizfunnel.com/Facebook. And the reason why you want to be part of that group if you're not already in there is in between these live sessions, that's where all the conversation's happening. That's where all the discussion is happening. And I'm doing some special stuff inside the Facebook group that you only get when you're in the group. Like, for example, live Q&A sessions, like a Q&A session I held yesterday where you have the opportunity to get your questions answered. And it's only for folks who are inside the private Facebook group. So you want to make sure that you get yourself in there if you haven't already done so. It's the first thing. Second thing is this. We also have something called the secret text thread. I have a secret text thread where every single day I've been sending some cool stuff via text message. And if you haven't already joined that thread, you want to do so now by going to quizfunnel.com/text text, and it'll ask you for your phone number and your contact information. Select your country code. If you're outside the United States, it's totally fine. Select that, and every day I've been sending goodies like my notes from each session, so you want to make sure you get that, and my list of 101 profitable quiz ideas, which is going to come in very handy for today's session where we brainstorm and come up with the big idea behind your quiz. So we've covered the Facebook group, we've covered the text thread. Speaking of downloads, on this page that you're on right now, you'll notice that there's something that says that's called the Big Idea Workbook. The Big Idea Workbook is on this page. You'll see here the orange button where it says download now. Go ahead if you haven't done so already and click that big orange button, download that Big Idea Workbook. And the reason for that is because we are going to be using that workbook today, and it's going to look like this. If I pull it up on my screen, we're going to be using that workbook today. We're going to be going through some of the steps, some extra things that are not included in this workbook that I'll be explaining for those of you who are here live. So make sure you have that at your disposal. We'll be using that and working through that and going through that here today. So we've covered the Facebook group, we've covered the secret text thread, we've covered the PDF, and like I said, this is session 2 in this week-long quiz funnel workshop. And in case you missed session 1, or if you were on session 1, it's important that we begin by quickly recapping everything that we've covered so far to get us to this point. So, speaking of the first session in this workshop, if I pull up my slides and you bear with me 1 second, today is all about the big idea. But our previous session was all about what we call the personalization phenomenon. And we talked about how the world has changed, how the online world has changed, and how companies are disrupting industry after industry using the power of quiz funnels. Companies like Warby Parker disrupting the eyeglasses industry, coming out of nowhere to generate over $320 million a year in sales on the back of a quiz to figure out what type of glasses is right for you. You can see here in the insurance industry, one of the oldest, stodgiest, least innovative industries in the entire world, a little company called Health IQ coming out of nowhere to be valued at over $450 million, all on the back of a quiz. In the mattress industry, of companies like Sleep Number that use a quiz to figure out what your sleep number is and what mattress is right for you, out of nowhere to generate over $975 million a year in sales. Companies like Stitch Fix disrupting the fashion industry, generating $1.6 billion in sales, eclipsing mainstay companies that have been around for almost 100 years simply by using a personal styling quiz to figure out what style and clothes are right for you. Now, the one thing that they all have in common, of course, is that they are all using the power of quiz funnels to grow their business. Now, we talked about yesterday what is a quiz funnel exactly. And so if we go to my notes here, we'll see in the personalization phenomenon, we first began by defining what a funnel is. And who remembers what a funnel is, right? In the highest, most general sense of the word, what was our definition yesterday? We said a funnel is a series of steps that take someone from not knowing who you are to then becoming a paying customer or client in your business. So that's a funnel in general terms. What is a quiz funnel? Well, a quiz funnel is a funnel where when someone doesn't know who you are, you begin by taking them through a series of questions to learn a little bit more about their situation so you can put them into one of several possible buckets. And then from there, you can sell people maybe more than one product based on their particular bucket, or the same product that you reposition and speak about in a slightly different way that makes it customized to them. And we went through a bunch of examples of quiz funnels in action, like for example, the Revolution Golf Swing Killers funnel, where we begin with a landing page that looks like this, that takes people through a series of questions and then prescribes the right next step for them. Or we looked at Amy Porterfield's online course type quiz funnel, where we ask people which of the following courses is right for you to create for your business, ask a series of questions, and then put people into one of several buckets based on their answers. Now, many of you arrived at this workshop actually going through a real life quiz funnel, like this one right here. What type of funnel is right for you? Take the quiz to find out now. So we went through all sorts of different examples yesterday, and we also talked about why quiz funnels are so important. Who remembers the 5 reasons why quiz funnels are so powerful and why they're a strategy that you should consider in your business? Do me a favor in the comment thread. What was reason number 1? Reason number 1 was what? Incredibly cheap leads, right? Oftentimes you're able to cut your cost per lead from anywhere from 30 to 90% when you switch from a traditional funnel to using a quiz funnel. And we talked about dozens of examples like Maston Kipp, who was paying $6 a lead in his book funnel and then now pays only 76 cents per lead through his quiz. We talked about Sean Penrod, who was able to cut his cost per lead from $2.59 to 23 cents on the back of a quiz in the marathon running market. We talked about Beryl Young, who was able to cut her cost per lead from $1.67 to less than 14 cents in the photography market. So that was reason number 1. What was reason number 2? It's not just that a quiz funnel gives you incredibly cheap leads, but also incredibly high conversion rate, right? So we talked about how because you're using a quiz funnel, you're able to customize your copy, your offer, the message that you put in front of someone after they take your quiz. And that can often lead to doubling or even tripling your sales conversion rates. And we talked about businesses like Snack Nation and how Snack Nation switched to a quiz funnel and was able to triple their business and land on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing companies in America, generating over $24.2 million a year on the back of their quiz funnel. And we talked about that it's not just cheap leads, it's not just incredibly high conversion rate. We talked about the next big reason, which was what? Incredibly high volume, right? And we talked about how a quiz funnel can often grow your business by anywhere from 10 to 50x or more, even if you're starting from scratch. It can explode the growth of your list, of your audience, of your community. And we looked at Luis Carlos and his wife Gabby and their business and how they launched a quiz funnel in the middle of COVID-19 in the parenting market and generated over 1 million opt-ins in less than 10 days. They grew their list by over 1 million people in less than 10 days. And in case you're wondering, how did those leads all convert? They paid 26 cents a lead with a 4x ROI, meaning they made over $1 million in revenue on that traffic. So, incredibly cheap leads, incredibly high conversion, incredibly high volume, and also number 4, incredibly valuable. What's the word? It's that 4-letter word, begins with D. Incredibly valuable data, right? We talked about how the single most valuable companies of our generation, companies like Google and Facebook and Amazon, what they all have in common is that they all have more data on us than anybody else. Facebook knows what you're going to have for dinner. Google knows what you're thinking. Amazon knows exactly what you want to buy. I like to say he or she who has access to the most data wins. We talked about how when you use a quiz funnel, the quiz data is an incredibly valuable asset that you're building in your business. And it's one that increases the value of your business by over 100x or more. I shared the story of the tiny upstart quiz-based life insurance company now valued at $450 million on the back of a quiz. We also talked about Revolution Golf, a little company started by 3 guys, golf buddies, launched a quiz funnel, built an audience of over 2.1 million people. They get a call one day for a little company called NBC who says, hey, would you be interested in selling your company? We're looking to explode our audience online. Made an offer to buy Revolution Golf for over $20 million. We talked about in the B2B space, a guy started a little company called Swift Financial to help small business owners find the right business loan for you. Launched a quiz funnel, built a list of over 20,000 paying customers, gets a phone call from a little company called PayPal, making an offer to buy his company for over $183 million. So whether you've thought someday maybe you want to sell your company, maybe down the road, you want to create an asset that has a tremendous amount of value, or maybe it's not something you've thought about now, but you'd be open to it if the price is right, this is an incredibly powerful way to generate increasing value in your business. So that's reason number 4. But reason number 5, arguably the most important, more important than any of the other reasons that we've talked about, is what? That quiz funnels not only help you better sell, but also better serve as well. Of course, with a quiz funnel, you win when you're able to cut your cost per lead by 90%, double or triple your sales conversion rate, explode the growth of your email list and audience by 10 to 50x or more. But more importantly, your customer wins. Because when you have a quiz funnel, you're not only better selling, you're serving your audience at a higher level. And I'll share an example, a story. This is Dana Abraham, and in her business, she's in the parenting market. And you can see here, she launched a quiz funnel, 10,748 leads in less than 14 days. On the back of this quiz funnel, built a business that makes over $1 million a year in less than 12 months. And you can see the feedback she's gotten from her market. And this is the key point here. It's not just that Dana has won, but you can see the feedback that she's gotten. It's so beautiful. I could not come and post. Katrina says, thank you so much for being who you are. Lauren says, you've changed my life. Now, we talked about not only why quizzes, but we also talked about why quizzes work. And we talked about something called the 3 psychological forces. The 3 psychological forces, if you remember, are as follows. Force number 1, the power of self-discovery. Remember, it doesn't matter what market you're in, the thing that people care about more than anything else is what? Me, myself, and I. It's themselves. We talked about how you can offer people the promise of learning something about themselves. It's an irresistible promise. We then talked about the power of micro commitments and how by asking people to take tiny little steps before you ask them to buy your product or sign up for your email list, but begin by asking a series of simple, non-threatening questions, you ease people into your world and ultimately create higher conversion because you're asking people to dip their toe in the water before jumping in the pool with you. And last but not least, we covered the 3rd psychological force, something that we have listed here as ADP. Who remembers ADP? Where are my smart cookies here in the audience? Do me a favor, go to the group, head on over to the comment thread, on the page, quizfunnel.com, and let me know, what does ADP stand for? Who was paying attention? Who remembers ADP? Who knows what that stands for? I know some of you are saying, what does that mean exactly? What is ADP? And some of you who were here yesterday are totally on top of it. ADP, looking for the comments here, hitting refresh. It's taking a second for me to refresh on this screen. I think, guys, we may be breaking Facebook here with all these amazing comments, which is great and it's exciting, although it makes it a little bit tricky for me to get to the page. And team, we may need to just take a quick look at it. For me, the page will not load for me. So we may have too much activity, too much excitement going on. So team, if we could take a look at that and see what might be happening. I'm just gonna keep soldiering along here. ADP, what does it stand for? It stands for attract, diagnose, and prescribe. That's right, attract, diagnose, and prescribe. So if we look at this here on the screen, you'll see the 3 letters ADP, ADP, attract, diagnose, and prescribe. Looks like we're down for a few seconds. It's still saying it's down for me. Team, if you could just give me a heads up on that here. If you're watching this right now, if I could get a private message, just let me know if that is, if we're good to go, or if we're having a challenge on that right now. If I could get team to reply to me. Okay. Let me know. If you might be watching this right now saying, all is good. We can cut to me. All is good, Ryan. It sounds great. But if I could get a reply from someone, I know the team's watching this right now. If I could just get a reply from someone, that would be super helpful just to let me know. And I want to make sure that we're all here and all is good before we keep soldiering on. All right. Looks like we've got a little bit of a challenge here. And for those of you who are watching this live right now, we're going to work on getting this fixed and get this sorted. And hang tight. We're going to get this sorted. And team, if I could just get a heads up, if anyone can hear, if we have an alternative way for folks to hear and continue watching this right now, And all I need is just a green light, yes or no, if you're a team member watching this or hearing this right now, because I have no way of seeing the comments on the page. If I could just get a reply. Okay, awesome. Kelly says, I can still be heard and hear me. Thank you so much, team. Appreciate the ultra fast and speedy reply on that. Okay, great. So it sounds like on YouTube you're able to still see me, but on the page we might have some issues. It looks like team is gonna go ahead and set up a short link that we're gonna get a redirect set up to be able to watch it on YouTube right now. Of course, the link on YouTube is team far too long for anybody to type in. So if we can get a redirect for that so folks can watch it on YouTube, the fastest way to do that, if I just had a simple link to be able to give people, perhaps something like quizfunnel.com/YouTube, if we can get that redirect set up, and that way we don't miss a beat. And I'm just going to continue soldiering on. In the event that you can hear me, I hope that you can. I hope that you are able to watch this right now, and we'll continue going from there. All right, good. So with that being said, we covered ADP, attract, diagnose, prescribe, which is our third psychological force here on the screen. Remember, attract, diagnose, prescribe is just like a doctor. When you diagnose by asking a series of questions and prescribe the right outcome for people based on their situation, then you have people on the edge of their seat, right? We used that example in day one's training where we said, imagine you walk into the doctor's office, your foot is in pain, you walk into the doctor's office, the doctor says, begins by asking you a series of questions. Is it your left foot? Is it your right foot? Is it a dull pain? Is it a sharp pain? Is it here? Is it here? Does it hurt there? Is it hurt there? And then at the end of it, you're at the edge of your seat saying, Doc, what is it? What's wrong with my foot? Well, you create that same sort of tension, that same sort of desire when you take people through a series of questions to ask them in this process. So we've covered the 3 psychological forces. We also covered the 5 ways to know. We also covered the 5 ways to know if a quiz is right for you. We talked about if you sell multiple products. So if you sell more than one product, it's a great way to figure out what product is right for them. We talked about if you sell just one product, how you can reposition that product differently to different groups or segments of people in your market to identify to reposition that product in such a way that it is relevant to them. We talked about if you're in a market where people have different challenges, right? Where they have different challenges, whatever those challenges may be. Or if you help people in different situations, right? You might help parents, teachers, children, or CEOs, head of HR, head of technology, people in different situations. And then people in different steps or places in a journey, right? So if you help beginners, intermediates, experts, and so on and so forth. So we talked about the 5 ways to know if a quiz is right for you. We talked about the 6 businesses for whom a quiz is for. If you're in the e-commerce space, digital products, affiliate marketing, getting clients, any sort of high-ticket sales, whether it's coaching, consulting, agency, freelancing. We talked about if you're a local business, brick and mortar, services, so on and so forth. And by the way, if you're watching this right now and you are having trouble with the page, head on over on a temporary basis, quizfunnel.com/YouTube, and you should be able to watch the video on that page right there. That's quizfunnel.com/YouTube. You should be able to watch it on that page. And for those of you who've been wondering, wait, is this live or is this recorded? Well, I think the answer is very clear now. This is clearly live TV that's happening without a net. You never know what's going to happen, and just rolling with it as it comes. So thanks so much for being here, and appreciate your understanding and being so understanding. So quizfunnel.com/YouTube. Looks like that page is working, and we can continue moving forward. All right. We also talked about, last but not least, the 5 big outcomes. So the 5 big goals that you can achieve by driving people into a quiz funnel, whether you're just looking to get people to join your list or your group or your community. On the back of a quiz, you're starting from scratch, you want to build an audience. If you're looking to get people to just straight away buy your product and buy whatever it is that you're selling right after the quiz. If you're looking to get people to watch your sales video, more people to watch your sales presentation or video online, or if you're looking to get more people to attend your webinar, where you go into a little bit more detail about your product. And last but not least, if you're looking to book more phone appointments, get more people on the phone, more people booking appointments with you, walking into your storefront, and so on and so forth. So we've covered the 5 reasons why quizzes. We covered the 3 psychological forces. We covered the 5 ways to know if a quiz is right for you. We covered the 6 types of businesses quizzes work for. We covered the 5 big outcomes. And by the way, if we kind of zoom out for a second, if you want to get access to these notes that you see here on the screen, and maybe you missed it yesterday or you didn't have a chance, head on over to the link quizfunnel.com/text, and I'll text you all my notes from not only today, but what you missed in the first session as well. So I'll text you my personal private notes from there. All right, cool. So if we go back to everything that we covered yesterday, we also talked a little bit about how it all started. So we talked a little bit about sort of my story and how it all got started. How did I discover this process and where did it all begin? Well, I grew up working class, first in my family to go to college. This is my dad. Growing up, worked nights, loaded boxes on the back of a truck. My mom cut hair in the basement of our house to earn a little bit of extra income. First in my family go to college, where I met my wife at Brown University, where I studied neuroscience. After college, worked in New York City and later in China. And then from there, the world financial crisis hit in 2008, where we were in an economic environment very similar to the one we're in right now, and I left my job, started a business, and my big goal at that time was to make $10,000 a month. And I did it by going into 23 different weird niche markets, all sorts of different markets like the Scrabble jewelry market, orchid care market, memory training market, water filtration, satellite TV, fish oil supplements, flea removal. And it was through this process that I was able to refine this process that we're covering here in this workshop. In fact, it was a process that I used to enter these markets that's now known as quiz funnels. And going into each of these markets, my first month I made $370. Within 18 months, was making $24,000 a month. Within 3 years, $117,000 a month, over $1 million a year, building audiences of 78,000 people, 100,000 customers, 260,000 customers, 30,000 customers, 535,000 people, 116,000 customers, and all said and done, built an audience of over 4.1 million email subscribers. From there, other businesses started hearing about this process, and I began building quiz funnels for other companies. And big companies started reaching out and were offering me huge sums of money. And I was charging what I call the 55-5 model. So for those of you watching this right now, wondering, can you build a quiz funnel for other businesses? Like, is this something that you could make money doing? And the answer is absolutely yes. You can see here I charge anywhere from $15,000 to $50,000 up front, $5,000 a month on a monthly retainer for an hour of my time, and a 5% royalty on gross sales, which in some cases would be worth a few $1,000s a month, and in other cases upwards of $40,000, $50,000 a month or more. At the end, a single funnel to work with me to build a quiz funnel was $250,000 a year to create a quiz funnel in your market. From there, I grew an Inc. 500 education company from the ground up. And you can see here the Ask Method company, 3-time Inc. 500 company, 2017, 18, 19, number 7 fastest growing company in Austin, Texas, number 50 fastest growing education company, and then co-founded a software technology company called New Edge Solutions, where we've built an AI-driven quiz funnel technology used by 30 million people worldwide, 200 million data points annually, $32 million in revenue in just the last few years, and today over $1 million a month in all sorts of different products, digital products, affiliate marketing, high ticket coaching and consulting, e-commerce product sales, software subscriptions. But more important than my story is the story of real people like you and me who are using this process to build profitable businesses themselves. Like Charlie Wallace, who built a business in the guitar space on the back of his Guitar Progress Killers quiz for $2.2 million a year. Michael Hyatt, his platform assessment quiz generates $203,000 a month. Amy Porterfield, $5 million launch on the back of her course type quiz. Buck Risby, weight loss type quiz, over $12 million a year. An affiliate promotion that generated over $319,000 in just 5 days on the back of a quiz. Andy Mackinson and his wife Carrie, $24.2 million a year in their Snack Nation e-commerce business. You can see here Ed Herricky, who sold his company for $183 million to PayPal. Or total beginners like Neil Gordon, who is driving for Lyft 2 years ago, now making over $100,000 a month on the back of his quiz funnel, and Jamal Miller on his Why Are You Still Single quiz went from $17 an hour to over $500,000 a year. And you can see here, this is just the beginning. We have entrepreneurs who've literally just launched their product, 50 plus sales, 93 plus sales, $12,000 in a single week. Right now as we speak, first sale ever, first sale ever, first sale ever. And these are just a few of the many, many stories of people who have used this process to transform their life. And before we kick things off today and begin talking about the big idea, the very first step in the process, which is our focus here today, I want to begin by sharing a few more stories of people who have transformed their life using this process that we're beginning to go through starting today. So check it out.
I'm Dr. Michelle Gordon, and I help women transcend the symptoms of menopause.
I am a real estate coach.
I help Brazilians improve their American accent.
I help working moms create greater work-life balance.
I help artists from all over the world create online profitable businesses.
I help runners run faster marathons.
I help art teachers curate powerful connections to art.
I help people learn English through immersion.
I help first-time homebuyers with low credit ratings.
I help musicians boost their performance and improvisation skills.
Today, my company is pretty great.
Have a high six-figure, getting ready to turn to a seven-figure real estate coaching business.
Things were really, really good.
I got everything I wanted.
I've been able to take off over 180 days.
We're creating a steady, consistent business model.
I actually have a business now.
But trust and believe it was not always like that.
Doing whatever I can just to find something, how to make something work.
There was no way that I could keep up this pace.
I was kind of discouraged.
I was ready to say, this is hard.
Things weren't really going anywhere.
My well of leads had dried up.
I was having trouble growing the business, growing the company.
My ideas were completely failing me.
I thought I had followed the path perfectly, putting all the pieces in the right order, but I was wrong.
0% success.
I was burned out. I was pissed off all the time.
I quickly burned through all of my savings and ended up having to sleep in my car. There was one thing that kept me motivated during all that time, and as corny as it might sound, it was this.
I started looking on the internet, I found the Ask method.
And I ended up finding my way into the Ask method and showing up at Ask Live, and it resonated very deeply with me.
I read Ask on the plane and in the hotel room, so I would have some clue what was going on at the event.
And for the first time, I heard someone talking about segmentation and buckets.
And that's when everything started to shift for me.
And it was just what I needed. I was so pumped.
I was on the edge of my seat, scrambling to fill my notebook with pure gold.
I have had almost 10,000 moms go through a quiz that has led them to a webinar that currently converts at 16%, you guys.
I've gone from 200 leads and 0 sales to 1,800 leads, 12 sales, and knowing that I'm going to get where I want to go.
And this is the first time ever I could actually say, this is actually what I do.
We ended up impacting over 3,600 families.
I gathered my first 10,000 plus leads in Bucket in less than 8 months.
Held my very first 3-day art biz workshop.
Built an email list of over 2,600 contacts. I got like 900 leads in 2 weeks.
I just hit the 1,000 lead mark.
I've got an audience of over 10,000 Instagram followers.
20 leads a day to 233 leads a day.
We've been able to add an additional $102,000 in revenue to our business.
I was able to sell 9.6 million.
$40,000 in revenue in 1 month.
So I have this funnel at the moment where I invest €1.5 and getting €7 back.
As of right now, I'm over $18,000 in recurring revenue in my business.
The Ask method has made me $132,946.
Now, the reason why more people don't get results like the ones that you've heard in that video, as we talked about in day one, comes down to 5 big mistakes. Now, the 5 big mistakes are as follows. Mistake number 1, having the wrong hook, which is the big idea that attracts people to take your quiz. You have the wrong hook, you attract the wrong type of audience to your quiz. Mistake number 2 is the wrong questions. You ask the wrong questions, you're not going to take people down a path to create desire and demand for your product. The wrong offer. If you don't have the wrong offer on the back of your quiz, nobody's going to buy. You're going to get a bunch of people to take your quiz, but nobody's actually going to buy it. The wrong process. There's a process to building one of these quizzes. We talked about starting that in reverse. And last but not least, the wrong technology. Now, I know a lot of you have been asking about technology, like what's the technology to make all this happen? And I get some of you are feeling impatient, wanting to know, but I promise you when I say that we're going to be getting to that, we're going to be talking about it, but not today. Today, we're going to be focusing on the first big mistake, which is the wrong hook. We're going to be focusing on how to come up with the big idea behind your quiz. Now, the reason why we start here is because everything starts with the big idea. If you have the wrong hook, you attract the wrong type of audience. And if you created a quiz before that's generated clicks but not customers, or you haven't been able to get your people to click on your quiz at all or take it, chances are that one of the mistakes that you might have made is the fact that you're having and using a wrong hook. The wrong big idea behind your quiz. Now, it all starts with having the right hook, and the right hook comes down to using one of 3 quiz frameworks for building your quiz. And this is what we're going to be talking about first. As we begin talking about the big idea, we're going to begin by exploring each of the 3 possible quiz frameworks. Now, as I go through each of these 3 quiz frameworks, what I want to encourage you to do is to think about which one do you think best applies to you and your business. And I'm going to invite you in just a moment to, in the comment thread, let me know what you think, your first glance, which one you think is right for you. Beginning with the first quiz framework, which is a type quiz. Now, what's a type quiz exactly? Well, to understand what a type quiz is and to understand why this framework is so powerful, I think it's helpful to understand the underlying psychology behind it. Remember, I mentioned yesterday that I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to psychology and neuroscience. I really like to understand the psychological underpinnings behind why a strategy is so effective so you can implement it successfully in your business. So if we take a look at a little website called BuzzFeed.com. If you're not familiar, BuzzFeed.com is one of the most trafficked websites on the entire planet. And you'll notice there on their homepage, in their top navigation, one of their primary items is quizzes. Now, the type of quiz that we're talking about building here today is not one of these BuzzFeed quizzes. However, there are some important learnings that we can take from why these quizzes are so effective and so powerful when it comes to building our quiz funnel designed to convert clicks into customers. Now, recently BuzzFeed put out an infographic, and this infographic basically revealed the 3-word phrases that result in the most Facebook shares on Facebook. So in other words, the 3-word phrases that generated the most virality, the most people sharing these posts. And when you take a look at this infographic, what do you notice? What stands out to you? Only right answers. You can post it in the comments. Just what do you notice? What stands out to you? As I take a sip of water here, what do you notice when you look at this infographic? Again, only right answers. There's no wrong answer, only right answers. See a few responses coming through. Yes, indeed. Absolutely true. Now, take a look at this top line here. Take a look at this top line right here. What do you notice about this? This phrase is in reference to character are you. So what does that refer to? That, of course, refers to those BuzzFeed quizzes that we all have probably seen before. What character are you? What Disney character are you? Take the quiz. What Lord of the Rings character are you? Take the quiz. Take the quiz to find out what Star Wars character are you. Take the quiz to find out what Pokemon character are you, right? We've all seen these quizzes before. You can see that this strategy outperforms everything else. But what's more interesting than the blue line is the gray line here. Now, what do you notice about that gray line here? By the way, this gray line here represents the range between the best performing version of that strategy and the worst performing version. So when you look at that gray line compared to the next most effective strategy, this one here, which is X things only, what do you notice between this gray line and this one here? Well, like most people probably can obviously see that the line for this one here is incredibly narrow, but this one here is incredibly wide. So what does that tell us? It tells us that X things only, which refers to, for example, 7 things only moms would understand, or 5 things only people from Texas will appreciate. That strategy has some winners, but it has some losers as well. But this one here, check it out. For BuzzFeed, this is a strategy that effectively works every single time. Now, I don't know about you, but I like stuff that works every single time, right? So the question is why? Why does this work so well? Well, it helps to understand the underlying psychology behind why this framework, a type framework for a quiz, is so effective. So check it out. The psychology that we're looking at here is something that's called categorical perception. What does that mean exactly? Categorical perception is just a fancy term that describes the fact that we as human beings, the way we make sense of the world is we naturally have to put things into different categories. We have to put things into different buckets. Even when we know intuitively that something is not that everything on a spectrum is unique. And the best way to understand this is we look at the science of color. So it's intuitive. We know that color exists on an infinite spectrum. There's no such thing as different colors. It's an infinite spectrum. But to make sense of this, our human brain needs to put colors into different buckets. Like, for example, if we look at my shirt right now, I've got sleeves on my shirt that are a red color. This Build It slogan on my shirt is blue. The Inc. 500 cover is a light blue here. The wall is brown. We naturally put things into different buckets, even though this is an artificial construct. Now, here's the important piece. It's not just color. It's everything. We as human beings not only want to put things into different buckets, but we actually want to put ourselves into different buckets. We like to understand, where do we stack up? What type are we? It's one of the reasons, as we talked about in the day one training, why these personality tests like Myers-Briggs and the StrengthsFinder test and Kolbe assessment and the DISC profile and the Enneagram assessment, which has been around for over 1,000 years, why they're so effective and why people keep taking these tests. Because we are obsessed to know, what type are we? So that's the underlying psychology. This is why it's so effective. Now let's take a look at some examples of quiz funnels that use and leverage this underlying psychological force. So check it out. If we look at this quiz here, this is the Proactive Skin Quiz. Now, if you're not familiar, Proactive is a skincare company, one of the largest skincare companies in the world. And a few years ago, they're a company that I did business with to help come up with what you see here, which is the skin type quiz. Created a quiz that identifies what type of skin you have, knowing that we all are special snowflakes, we all have unique differences in our skin, but the reality is we all fall into one of several different types. And based on this information, Proactive, an e-commerce company, sells the right skincare product based on your type. So you can see the framework here: attract, diagnose, prescribe, ADP. I'll give you another example. This is a company called Real Dose Nutrition. And Real Dose sells a series of weight loss products, weight loss supplements. And you can see here they have a framework called the Weight Loss Type Quiz. Take this quiz, and that's Dr. Steve Siskin and his partner Buck Risby. And they worked with me and my team to develop a quiz that you see here. And the framework and the concept behind this is, what is your weight loss type? Take the quiz to find out what your weight loss type is. Are you type A, type I, type G, or type C? And based on the answers to these questions, we can recommend the right solution for you to improve and deal with your weight loss. And these types correspond with the underlying hormonal profile based on what hormone is most likely most out of alignment based on the symptoms that you are expressing. Whether you have hunger, whether you carry your weights in your waist or you carry your weight in different parts of your body. Certain things like your body shape, certain things like the foods that cause you problems, certain things like where you experience pain in your body. All of these things contribute to help identify what your weight loss type is. Are you type A, type I, type G, or type C? And by the way, if you've struggled with weight in the past, and maybe you've tried a solution that's worked for somebody else, maybe a friend or a family member, and it hasn't worked for you, perhaps the weight loss strategy you've used is not right for your type. Take the quiz to find out what your type is and the right next step for you. So that's the premise behind that, understanding what type you might fall into. So those are examples of a type quiz. And once again, we have our framework: ADP, attract, diagnose, and prescribe. Now that takes us to our second quiz framework, and that is what we call a killer quiz. What does a killer quiz mean? Now, a killer quiz is one where you're pointing out a mistake that someone is making in their life that's holding them back from going from where they are now to where they want to go. And there's important underlying psychology behind why this framework is so effective. So let's check it out. I want you to imagine for a moment, close your eyes. Unless you're driving, don't close your eyes if you're driving. But imagine for a moment, close your eyes, that you're not here in this workshop, but instead you are in your bed, your head's on the pillow, you're fast asleep, it's the middle of the night. And then all of a sudden, while you're fast asleep, head on the pillow, you get a knock on your door. You jump up. It's the middle of the night. You say, who could be knocking on the door at this time? So you throw on your bathrobe, you run to the door, you look through the peephole on your door, and you say, gosh, it's my neighbor. What's my neighbor here for? You open the door, and your neighbor's huffing and puffing and says, I'm so sorry to be waking you up right now, but I had to let you know there's this sale that's happening downtown, and they're giving away a free set of tires for your vehicle. What's your reaction going to be? Well, if you're like most people, you're probably not going to be that happy, right? Getting woken up in the middle of the night for a sale happening downtown. Okay, now that's scenario one. I want you to imagine a similar scenario, but this time with just a little twist. So let's go in reverse. Once again, heads on the pillow, fast asleep at night, knock on the door. You're woken up, throw the bathrobe on, run to the door, look through the peephole. It's your neighbor. You open the door, neighbor's huffing and puffing and say, I'm so sorry to be waking you up right now. I know it's the middle of the night, but I thought you should know there are these guys in your driveway and they're stealing the tires off your vehicle. What's your reaction this time? If you're like most people, you're probably grateful that your neighbor took the time to knock on your door and let you know, right? But let's take a step back for a moment. Let's dissect this scenario. What's the difference in the economic value in both of these cases? In both of these cases, it's the same, right? It's a set of 4 tires. Yet in one scenario, you're incredibly upset that your neighbor woke you up, but in another scenario, the second scenario, you're incredibly grateful. So the question is, why is that? Why do we have this different reaction based on that different circumstance? Well, here we have to understand the underlying psychology behind what's going on. And the underlying psychology here is what we call the psychology of loss aversion. And basically what that means is that the fear of loss is a more powerful motivator than the promise of gain. I'll say that again. Fear of loss is a more powerful motivator than the promise of gain. In fact, we can take a look at examples of this in action. For a moment, let's pretend that you are a parent. I'm a parent, I've got small kids, so all my examples that I always share are usually kind of parent related, right? But I want you to imagine for a moment, you're a parent, you've got small kids, and you're browsing on Facebook. You're scrolling on Facebook, and you see one of 2 ads. And just let me know which one you would be clicking on. So ad number 1, post number 1 says the following. Attention parents, how to raise a well-adjusted, contributing member of society. Click the link below to find out now. So that's option 1. Option number 2, attention parents, the 5 biggest mistakes that parents make that screw their kids up for life. Click the link below to find out now. Which of those 2 headlines is getting your attention? Which of those 2 headlines is drawing you in? If you said the second one and you're like most people, the answer is because of this force at play. Fear of loss, fear of making a mistake is more powerful than the promise of gain. In fact, we can look at one of the all-time control headlines in marketing that you can see here. Do you make these mistakes in English? This is for a correspondence course, and this ad ran for over 50 years, virtually unchanged, in magazines and newspapers around the country. And it's for a course for how to speak better English, how to improve your English. Now, you'll notice what it doesn't say is how to speak more eloquently or how to improve your English. It's do you make these mistakes in English? Now we can look at examples of killer quizzes in action. One that I shared a moment ago, the golf swing killers quiz. The premise behind this one is simple. Hey, my name is Jim McLean, and for the last 25 years I've been helping golfers improve their golf swing. And what I found is that every golfer, from the ranked beginner to the seasoned tour pro, suffers from 1 of 10 swing killers, mistakes that absolutely kill your ability to hit with power, consistency, and distance. But the best thing is this. By answering a few simple questions, I can identify what your #1 swing killer is for free in under 60 seconds, and you don't even need to leave your home. Simply click the button below, answer a few simple questions, and I'll see you on the other side with your results and how to fix it. Attract, diagnose, and prescribe. Over 2.1 million golfers have gone through this process. And what's interesting, whenever I speak in front of audiences and crowds, I'll explain the premise behind this. And inevitably, I'll have someone in the audience say, Ryan, I actually took that quiz funnel, I went through it, I tried what you actually recommended, and it actually improved my golf swing. And I had to buy the product after I went through that process. I'll give you another example. This is Charlie Wallace. So Charlie is in the guitar niche. And you can see here, his quiz funnel is the Guitar Progress Killers quiz. And you'll notice that in Charlie's case, he has a video where he asks, what's your #1 guitar progress killer? And you answer a series of questions to identify what technical mistakes you're making in your guitar playing. And based on that information, he prescribes the best next step for you. Attract, diagnose, and prescribe. Now, what's crazy about this is I mentioned a little bit earlier, Charlie used this quiz funnel to build a business that makes $2.2 million a year. Now, before this quiz funnel, he was literally sleeping on a mattress in a guest room in someone's house. He had no place to live. He was traveling with his bandmates, struggling to make ends meet. And what's crazy is that on the back of this quiz funnel, I feel like a proud older brother whenever I kind of show this off, he was able to fund and launch his debut record that you can see right here. I've got a signed copy of it. It's a heavy metal sort of rock album, if that's your jam. And Charlie and his bandmates launched this record here. And what's crazy is that it landed, after launching, at number 12 on the Billboard charts of the best-selling albums in the country the week that it debuted. So I share that with you, so for those of you who are looking to build a business, to not just generate more income, but be able to fund your passion or live the life that you want or achieve more freedom or make that impact, Charlie is able to live his dream that he's been wanting to live since he was a child, which is to be a touring rock musician and have his very own record album. So that's an example of a killer quiz in action. That's framework number 2. And that takes us to the third quiz framework, which is a score quiz. Now, for a score quiz, we have to understand the underlying psychology behind why it's so effective. A score quiz is one where you point out the gap between where people are right now in their life and where they want to be. In other words, the gap between where they're at and what they're looking to achieve. So take a look at this example here. So pull this up on the screen. Who remembers one of these things here? Who remembers one of these things here? Well, if you're old enough to remember, this, of course, is a report card, right? Now, play a fun little game in the comments thread, wherever you're watching this right now. If you're watching this on the quizfunnel.com page, which, by the way, I'm told is now back and up and running, so you should be good there. If you're watching this on YouTube or somewhere else right now, in the comment thread, I want to invite you to answer the following question. Where are all my A students? Who was an A student in school back in the day? So A student, I know for some of you internationally you don't use the letter system, but an A student. If you're an A student, type in A student in the comment thread. If you were B student, type in the word B student in the comment thread. If you were C student, type in the word C student in the comment thread. This is always a lot of fun because whenever I ask this question in front of live audiences, I say, where are my A students at? And they all kind of like meekly raise their hand. They say, me, I was an A student. And then I say, where are all my C students? And then all the C students in the back of the room are like, oh, I was a C student. What's wrong with you, man? And the reason why it always makes me laugh is because it's, even though many of us are so far removed from the time we spent in school, it's an identity that we carry with us into adulthood. It's an identity that we have and keep with us for the rest of our life. We identify as being an A student back in school, a B student, a C student, an identity that's so deeply rooted in our core. And why is that? Like, why does that stick with us in such a deep way, and why is a score quiz so effective? Well, it has to do with the underlying psychology, which in this case here is what we call social comparison theory. So social comparison theory is a theory that basically one of the ways in which we make sense of the world is that we are constantly comparing ourselves to where we A, should be, where we believe we should be, and B, comparing ourselves against our peers. We're always asking ourselves, how is it that she's making more money than I'm making right now? How is it that he's further along in his career than I am? How is it that she's lost more weight than I've lost? We're always comparing ourselves to everybody around us. It's one of the sort of the detriments of social media. We're always looking at everyone else and what they have and what we don't have. It's just the way our brains work to help us make sense of the world and to understand where we are right now. Now, that underlying psychology is one of the reasons why a score-based quiz is so powerful and so effective, because you can help people identify where they are right now and put a quantity, a quantifiable, measurable number or attribute to that, and then help them identify both the gap between where they are and where they want to be and the path to closing that gap. How to go from a C student to an A student. How to go from an 8 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. So let's take a look at a few examples of that in action. So one of the most famous examples of that in action is what you see on the screen here, which is what's called the real age test. Now, this is a test that was popularized by Dr. Oz in American television a few years ago. And it's a test that you can take to identify your body's real age. So, your birth certificate might say that you're 35 years old or 45 years old or 55 years old or whatever, but how old is your body? Do you have the body of a 35-year-old or 45-year-old or 55-year-old? Or do you have the body of a 38-year-old or 43-year-old? Take this assessment to find out now. Any guesses on how many people have taken this quiz online? Take a guess. Post it in the comments. Like, what do you think? I don't know. 1 million people? 2 million people? 5 million people? 10 million people? Any guesses? Try this. Over 40 million people have taken this assessment. Think about that for a moment. Imagine logging in to whatever tool you use to manage your business, whether it's Infusionsoft or HubSpot or whatever tool you use to manage your email subscribers, your CRM, and you log in, and whatever number you see today, maybe that number is 0, maybe that number is 1,000, whatever that is, imagine logging in tomorrow morning and waking up, rubbing your eyes, and saying, wait, what? 40 million people? And not just knowing that person's name and email, but knowing 40 million people and every single one of their data points. You'll know who has joint pain, who has back pain, who has vision problems, who has hair loss, who has skin issues. You know all this information so that you can ultimately serve your market at the highest level, whether you're an affiliate marketer and you're trying to put the best product in front of the right person. If you sell digital courses and programs and you want to connect people to the right course, whether you're a coach or consultant or maybe a health practitioner, you're trying to help people in the biggest way, whether you're a physical e-commerce business selling supplements or medical devices, think about the value of that type of audience, 40 million people. I'll give you a few other examples. Take a look at this one here. This is the Digital Readiness Score quiz. So for those of you who have marketing agencies or any sort of agency and you're looking to get more clients, this is Dev Basu, and he has an agency called Powered by Search, and he created something called the Digital Readiness Assessment to take this assessment to figure out how digitally ready your business is for the coming digital revolution. Attract, diagnose, prescribe. Give me another example. This is Ronnie Nijmeh's quiz, the Authority Score quiz. Take this quiz to figure out what your level of authority is compared to your peers. Attract, diagnose, and prescribe. All right, so first blush, first kind of guess, based on everything that we've covered so far, I'd love to encourage you right now to, in the comment thread, let me know. Are you thinking type, killer, or score? Now, this answer is not set in stone. Nothing set in concrete, but just kind of first glance, first blush. Do you think that for your business, type makes sense, killer makes sense, score makes sense, or you're not sure? Just go ahead in the comments, and if you have to pick just one, type the words type, The word killer or the word score? I'm told that comments are working once again, so I'm going to see if I can, fingers crossed, see everything that we're writing. Great, we are here. Okay, awesome. I can see a whole bunch of great comments here. Score for my business, says Rosemary. Killer, says Beckwith. Edwin says score. Catherine, score. Benny, killer. Let's see. Bozakine says mostly killer. Janice says type or score. Not quite sure yet. Killer or score, says Tanya. Victor says killer. T-Dot says killer. Mark. Aiden, Shelly, Neelam says score, says Kelly. Neelam says score. Deborah says score. Ela says killer. Ryan says type. Rose says score, killer, and possibly score. Very exciting. So we've got a great mix of those of us here. So the question to be asking yourself is, how do you know which one to use for you and your business? Well, the answer is, of course, how do you decide? The way you decide is to test. The way you decide is to test. And what we're going to cover here today is how you do this test, is how you figure out which one is right for you. I'm going to walk you through a framework step by step on how to come up with the big idea behind your quiz. So we start to kind of flood our brains with all these examples. Hopefully you've been inspired and motivated by some of these different businesses. Hopefully the wheels are starting to turn. You're starting to get ideas. And the goal today is for you to start thinking about and brainstorming what your big idea might be. So in order to do that, what I want to do now is I want to start my notes, and we're going to go through this process together. So you should be able to see my notes on the screen. Perfect. And let's talk about how to test. So once again, we have, just to kind of recap where we're at, we've got our three frameworks, right? So we have our three frameworks, just to kind of put this on the screen to remind us. 3 frameworks, 3 quiz frameworks. And of course, we know what these are. These are the ones that we just covered. We have type, killer, and score. Okay, so we're just going to get this going so we kind of know where we're at. We're going to use this just as reference. We have it up on the screen. Type, killer, and our score. Great. Now we need to talk about how to test. And to test, there are 3 steps, 3 big steps to testing. So let's cover these 3 steps to test. And by the way, if you're taking notes right now, is a great time to have your notes out as we start to kind of dive into this. 3 steps to test. Step number 1, 2, and number 3. Step number 1 is we begin by brainstorming your topic. Brainstorm your topic. So step number 1, brainstorm topic. And I'm going to use this for our thing, brainstorm topic. Step number 2 is where we brainstorm your framework. Which framework we're going to use. And we're going to go through a bunch of examples live on this process, so you can see it in action and really, really bring it to life for you in your business. And last but not least, we need to test your big idea. We're going to talk about exactly how to do that in a few moments. So 3 steps: brainstorm your topic. Step 2, brainstorm your framework. And step 3, test your big idea. Now let's begin with the first step in the process, step 1. See here, step 1. I want to do a number 1, make that a little bit clearer. Step 1 is to brainstorm your topic. So what is your topic? Let's do this, can make it a little bit neat. Oops, I want to do that. There we go, good. Brainstorm your topic. Okay, so what is your topic? Before we get into that, what is your topic exactly? Your topic is the subject or theme for your quiz. What is your quiz actually about? Is the subject or theme, is it about hair loss? Is it about insurance? Is it about weight loss? Is it about parenting? Is it about buying a home? Is it about exercise? What is your quiz actually going to be about? So this is the first thing that we want to begin by brainstorming. And to help figure out and think about what your quiz topic might be, there are 5 kind of thought starters that you can use. 5 ways to kind of get the wheels turning and get some ideas for what your quiz might be about. And what I want to do now is cover each of these 5 steps. So if we go here on our notes, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 ways to brainstorm our quiz. And for our topic, we're going to begin with each of these 5. So the first question that you want to think about asking yourself is, what is a question that people are always asking about in your market? What's a question that people are always asking about? In other words, do you get asked the same questions over and over again that people are constantly wondering? Is it a question that you constantly see in your community? A question that constantly comes up among your customers, your clients? Now, for those of you who participated in the Choose, Ask, Build challenge leading up to this workshop, you'll remember that one of the exercises was to identify the top 3 to 5 challenges in your market based on what you're seeing in the groups and forums that exist in your market. Well, this is where we use those challenges. Each of those represents a potential topic or subject for a quiz funnel in your market. So what are the questions that people are always asking? That's the first place to look. Number 2, second place to look. What is something that people either care deeply about and or are insanely curious to know? Care, curious. And what you're looking for here are what are possible topics in your market that represent an opportunity for self-discovery. Okay, so that's sort of brainstorm prompt number 2. Number 3, another possibility involves looking at what is hot right now in the media. So what are the topics right now that the media, this is media mentions, what are the topics right now in mainstream media that's getting all the attention in the headlines in your particular market? Is there a particular news story that's dominating the news cycle this year or the last few months? Is there something that is just kind of constantly being written about, being spoken about, being published about in magazines and digital websites and newspapers and just all the sort of global media that potentially would serve as an interesting quiz topic? And what this is called is doing something that we call newsjacking. So newsjacking is where you're taking a topic that's already in the news and you're making your business and what you focus on relevant to that. So you're taking a topic that is happening in the news cycle right now and you're making your business relevant to that. So we've got always asking, we've got things that you people either care about deeply or are insanely curious to know more, offer the promise of self-discovery. Media mentions. Next one that we've got are what we call myths. Oops, make that a little bit bolder. Myths, mistakes, and misconceptions. In other words, what are some of the myths that are held in your market? What are some of the mistakes that people constantly make? Maybe they're making a mistake that they don't even realize that they're making. What are some of the misconceptions, the misheld beliefs that people have in your particular market or niche? Things that they don't realize is true or is right for them. So anything in that category would represent a potential idea for a quiz. So myths, mistakes, and misconceptions. And last but not least, we have anything that is has the promise or the possibility of either loss and or gain. Gain with a high degree of a high degree. So what do I mean by that? In other words, anything that happens in your market where someone stands to either lose a lot of money, maybe lose a lot of results, or stands to gain a lot. There's a high potential not only for loss, but a high potential for gain. So there's sort of 5 sort of thought starters, topic starters to be thinking about. What is something that people are always asking? What is something that they care intensely about or incredibly curious about? What is something that's being mentioned in the media over and over again? What are the myths, mistakes, misconceptions that people make? Maybe they choose the wrong type of hardwood flooring, or the wrong backpack, or the wrong iPhone case, or the wrong camera. Where's an opportunity for a lot of loss or gain for your particular prospect in your market? So each of these represent possible topic ideas for your quiz. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to, if we bear with me one second, if we go to my screen, what I'd like to do in 1 second here, sorry, there we go, is take you through the big idea workbook that you have access to help you figure out answers to these questions. So you can see here, if we go to pages 4 and 5, in your workbook, you'll notice here that we walk through the process of brainstorming your topic with some thought starters, and then you want to come up with at least 10 to 15 possible ideas. What could your quiz be about? Oftentimes, sometimes it's the idea that leads to the idea. Sometimes in your market, there may be one topic that stands out that's brain dead obvious. Like, for example, you say, I sell backpacks, so clearly my quiz is going to be about backpacks. But other times, you might find an even better idea sort of lurking beneath the surface. There might be something hidden that you weren't thinking about that you realize, gosh, that could be even better than your original idea. So with that being said, I'd like to kind of take a first pass in the comments. What is a possible topic for your quiz? Like, what could your quiz be about? Could it be about hair loss? Could it be a quiz about what cruise ship is right for you? Could it be a quiz about your wealth blockers and what's holding you back from generating the wealth that you want to generate? Could be a quiz about advertising mistakes that people make. Based on your business, your niche, whether you've got an established business or you're thinking about entering a new market, what's a possible topic? Again, only right answers. It's just to kind of get the wheels turning, the ball rolling. Post a possible topic for your quiz inside the comments. I just want to read off a few of these here for those of you who are watching this live right now. And fingers crossed, I'm going to hit refresh on this page and say a little prayer and hope that it continues to work. That's great. So Tripp says, what's killing your results and success? Marion asks, 5 mistakes in starting seedlings. Dara says, fitness, type of exercise depending on your body type. Cynthia, what knocks you off your game? Sarita, pain relief. Kathy, quiz about facilitating virtual learning. Lure choice, interesting. I imagine that's perhaps for fishing. Which TV sitcom wife are you? Which wellness provider to go to? Posture or movement habits? Great, I love all these examples. You guys are doing great work here. So we begin by brainstorming our topic, right? So we begin by brainstorming our topic. Then that takes us to step 2. Step 2, we then need to continue by, so if I write this down, step number 2, brainstorming your framework. Now, of course, we have our 3 frameworks, type, killer, score, which I'm going to restate here. But there's a powerful rubric that we can use to help figure out which of these is right for you. So we go here, we go to step 1, 2, and 3. So we've got our, of course, type. We have our killer. And then we have our score. For this, I'm going to change our sort of colors a little bit to mix it up. So we have our type. Let's put this here, type, killer, and our score will go green. Okay. So when we look at type, what sort of set of circumstances make sense for a type-based quiz? Well, one where it's natural and obvious to begin putting people into different categories. If people can easily or naturally fit into different categories, and I'll give you an example of this. For example, if you're in the sleep market, it might be, what is your sleep profile. So people tend to sleep in different ways. You have belly sleepers and back sleepers, and you have side sleepers. You have people that tend to toss and turn, people who tend to stay in exactly one position, people who need to be under the covers, people who need to be over the covers, right? So we all have different sort of sleep profiles. Which one do you fall into? That'd be an example of type. In the orchid market, it might be what type of orchid is right for you based on your experience level, your growing conditions, the type of aesthetic that you are most attracted to. So what type of orchid is right for you? These would be examples of type and categories that we can easily put people into. Killer makes sense if your market lends itself to mistakes. Now, these are mistakes that people make, and these mistakes could be known mistakes, like people know that they're making the mistakes, or unknown. They could be known or unknown mistakes. Now, example of that would be something like stamina killers, mistakes that people make that absolutely kill their stamina. If you're helping athletes or people who are looking to achieve high performance. In the orchid market, it might be, for example, reblooming killers. What mistakes are you making that's preventing your orchid from reblooming, from reflowering? So you can see here we can have the same market, orchids, where we could have a type quiz and we could have a killer quiz in the same market, serving maybe a different segment, a different topic, attracting different types of people into your market, and maybe selling a different product after they take your quiz. So we've got type, killer, and next up we have score. So for score, makes sense if you help people and people exist along a journey or progression. What that means is if you if I can spell and talk at the same time, progression, journey or progression. What that means is you may be in a market where people naturally exist or proceed or move forward along a linear path. They start at point A and they get to point B and point C. For example, if you're in the fitness market, fitness score might be a good example. What's your fitness score? How fit is your body? It's a linear progression that people can improve their fitness along a rating system. So it makes a lot of sense. Now there's some markets, and you may be in the situation where one or more of these frameworks just doesn't quite fit. And you don't have to force it. There's some markets where all three might make sense, some markets where you're saying, gosh, it's definitely going to be a type, or other markets where you might be deciding between maybe one or two. If we take a look at the orchid example, orchid market, for example, we have a very easy type quiz. What type of orchid is right for you? We have a very easy killer quiz. What's your number one reblooming mistake? But when it comes to a score quiz, it's a little bit trickier to get that to work. Sure, we could come up with one, but it isn't necessarily the natural fit that you have with type or killer. So with that being said, let's go back to our workbook here. Just one second. Let's go back to our workbook. And what you'll see here, if we go to page 6 and 7, you'll see that there are 3 quiz frameworks, and a helpful resource for you to help figure out what framework might be right for you is to use this handy reference guide, which gives you a bunch of synonyms for the words type, killer, and score. Now, in some cases, you may be in a market where the word killer is just insensitive. It just doesn't make sense. You're in a market where, the word killer is just inappropriate because it doesn't make sense. In the tennis market, serve killers, what's killing your serve might be fine, but if you're in a market that may be like a health market, for example, you might not want to use body killers, what's killing your body. If you're in a relationship market, maybe it is, maybe it isn't the right word to use. So we have a whole list of synonyms that you can use, and of course, you can use a thesaurus and do your own research to come up with other ideas, but these will give you some thought starters for figuring out what might be right for you. So as we kind of go through this next layer of detail, brainstorming your framework and the words that you might possibly use, in the comment thread, if you're starting to have some light bulb moments, starting to have some ideas, starting to kind of get excited about the possibilities, in the comment thread, type the word ideas if they're flowing, if you're getting sort of like kind of pop, 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 like, oh, I could do this and oh, I could do that. Let me know in the comment thread with the word ideas, and we'll get to our next piece of the puzzle here in just a moment. Let me know what the ideas. Yes, no, maybe so. I see some of them coming through. I'm getting excited about some of your quiz ideas. So Michael says, constantly flowing, Lori ideas, Robert ideas, Shelly ideas, ideas are happening. Gosh, this is exciting. Very excited for you because this is just the beginning. This is just the start. Now, what I thought would be really helpful is if you're interested, would you like to go through some live examples? like some actual examples of quiz topics, quiz niches from people right here in this community to kind of see some of this in action and brainstorm some possibilities? Like, should we do that? Yes, no, maybe so? You want to see that in action? Well, if you would, you have no choice, because that's what we're going to do now. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to dive into that now. So we're going to go through some examples. So with that being said, let's pull up the slides. All right, so let's take a look at some examples. And I kind of went through our community here and dug up some examples of different markets. And the examples I'm going to share with you here are represented by entrepreneurs who have done work with me and my team to help create and build and launch their very own successful quiz funnel. And I thought it'd be cool to kind of take you behind the scenes of some of the ideas that we've brainstormed going through this process. So check it out. First example here is from Alexander Vickers. So Alexander is in the, he's an e-com business. His product is a wearable energy patch. So you can imagine like a nicotine patch, but one that actually provides energy to your body. So a wearable energy patch. It's a wearable one-time use disposable energy patch. And this is in the biohacking niche. You consider this in the biohacking niche. So let's take a look at what Alex came up with for some possibilities for his quiz. You can see here. So possibility number one, quiz. What's your energy vitality score? That's a pretty good one. Quiz. What's your number one energy vitality killer? Quiz. What's your focus capability score? And quiz. What's your body's natural energy pattern? Take the quiz to find out. So see here, in this case, we have what? 2 different scores, 1 killer possibility, and 1 energy pattern, which would be considered a type framework, but you can see we've got a variety here. Now, what's important to note is that in Alex's case here, he's testing different ideas that are different from one another, sort of narrowing it down to his top 4 possibilities that are different enough from one another that he's going to get a different response when he reaches out and tests this with his market. Let's look at another example. This is Tammy Leitzel, and Tammy is in the female empowerment niche. She's a certified professional coach, and she's looking to sell coaching and training on how to set better boundaries. So that's what she's looking to sell here. Now let's take a look at some of her examples. So female empowerment. Quiz. Do you know your assertiveness type? Quiz. What's your number one confidence killer? Quiz. Do you know your empowerment score? Take the quiz to find out now. Quiz. Identify your biggest boundary breaker. So we'll have some fun with this. Of these, which one would you pick if you were to go here? So if you were to pick one of these quiz headlines, which one would you pick? Would you pick, do you know your assertiveness type, confidence killer, empowerment score, or boundary breaker? You can just type it in the comments which one you would pick, and we'll have a little fun with this. Which would you pick? So those are the options on the screen: assertiveness type, confidence killer, empowerment score, boundary breaker. Which one resonates most with you? And by the way, if you're a gentleman on this call right now, you might not resonate with any of these, but you can play along and have fun with this too, and just and pick which one you most respond to. So cut to me for just a second as I go to comments. And I look here, hit refresh. I'm almost crossing my fingers saying, like, please don't break the comment thread. We've got so many of us here. So interesting. So Win says confidence killer. Ginger says confidence killer. Leonie says confidence killer. Adia says assertiveness type. Kathy says confidence killer. Assertiveness type, empowerment score. It's interesting, right? So immediately just kind of testing the waters and feeling things out, we start to see how the market is responding to these ideas. And unprompted, there's no waiting or no bias. It's a great way to get some sort of initial ideas and some initial feedback. Let's do another one. These are fun. I have a lot of fun with these. It's fun to kind of go and make these actually real. So take a look at this one here. So this is surface pattern design. So I wanted to pick a variety of niches. So this is Anne La Follette. Anne is a surface pattern artist. So she's an artist. And she's someone who very proudly, might I add, launched her online business after the age of 60. So she's doing incredible things. Just had a 6-figure launch in her business, doing incredible things. And she's in the course business of helping people transform their doodles into dollars. So she teaches people how to doodle and transform that into dollars. And you can see here some of her ideas. So quiz, what's your unique doodling style? Quiz, what's your unique sketching style? Quiz, what's your #1 creativity blocker? Quiz, identify your personal creativity profile. So again, we'll play the game. Post in the comment thread, which one do you resonate most with? Which one kind of stands out most to you? Which is the one that you get most excited about? Which is the one that if you were browsing on Facebook, you'd be most likely to click? If you're watching a video on YouTube, you'd be most likely to click the link below that video. If you're on Instagram or scrolling and searching on Google, or you're on LinkedIn, which one are you most likely to click? Let me know in the comment thread. I'll read a few of these off. Doodling style, sketching style, creativity blocker, creativity profile. Cut to me. Go to the screen. And again, I feel like I'm tempting fate here every time I hit refresh on this page. Rosemary says creativity blocker. Russell says doodling. Juanita says creativity profile. Ricky says creativity profile. Doodling style says Adia. Diane, creativity profile. Therese, personal creativity profile, creativity blocker. So this is interesting, right? So it looks like creativity profile kind of stands out, but there's a bit of a mix. We're kind of all over the map. And sometimes this happens, right? Where you have sort of a split decision. You've got answers all over the place. Let's do a couple more. These I think are really instructive and really bring this process to life. So let's check it out. This next one here is in the leadership development market. So this is Tamara, or T. Mosley. Tamara is a leadership consultant. So for all y'all who are consultants and you'd like to know how to use a quiz or an assessment in your business, Tamara here helps with leadership development for CEOs and corporations. And she created a leadership development quiz funnel. And you can see here her options that she was testing. Quiz, what's your leadership success pitfall? Quiz, what's your strategic planning pitfall? Quiz, what's your team performance pitfall? And finally, quiz, what's your leadership strategy pitfall? So all pitfalls. So Tamara, in this case, she knew that she wanted to go with pitfall. Pitfall was the word, pitfall was the concept. So all of these are killer framework, but she wasn't quite sure. Should she focus on leadership success, strategic planning, team performance, leadership strategy? So which one would you pick if you had to select one of the following? Leadership success, strategic planning, team performance, or leadership strategy? Which one would you pick of this list? Cool. Let's do another one of these. For those of you in the e-commerce business, this is a fun one. This is the hair extension market. So this is Melinda Hurt. She has an e-com business. She sells hair extension products, and her business is Doctored Locks. And you can see here her market is women who want to create dream hair through hair extensions. So she's in the hair extension market using a quiz funnel. So let's take a look at the options she was testing. So you can see here, quiz, what's your hair extension match? Quiz, what's your hair extension type? Quiz, what hair extensions are right for you? And finally, quiz, are hair extensions right for you? So of these, which one would you pick if you were in this market? Which one stands out to you? Do any of these kind of stand out to you? Now, I left that last one on, which is interesting. Are hair extensions right for you? Asking people yes or no is a little bit tricky and can actually backfire on you, because if you have a whole bunch of people for whom the answer is no, then what do you say? No, they're not right for you. Sorry, can't help you. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation. Now, in some cases, it can actually work in your favor. We can say, listen, hair extensions are not right for you. However, there's this other product that I think might be a perfect fit, and here's what it is. So it's a great way to steer people in one of several directions. If maybe the world is thinking, gosh, I need Invisalign, I need braces. Are braces right for you? Take the quiz to find out now. Well, braces are not right for you based on your goals. However, you might be a candidate for this other type of technology, which is this. Let me explain how that works. So you've kind of disqualified the thing that they thought that they needed, and have pointed them in this new direction for this new innovative sort of solution that maybe they weren't even aware of in the first place. So a fun and effective way to do that. Let's take a look at another example. This is Tony Fonderson. He's in the dating and relationships market. So he's in the dating market. He sells online programs, does a bit of affiliate marketing. So for those of you who are affiliate marketers wondering how you might use this strategy, you can check it out. So dating and relationship market, Tony has a few options. Quiz, what's your relationship personality? Quiz, what's your relationship readiness score? Quiz, what's your #1 dating blind spot? And quiz, which relationship mistakes are you potentially making? This one I'll go to the comment thread. Let me know what your answer is. Which one do you think is the one that you'd pick? Relationship personality, relationship readiness score, dating blind spot, or relationship mistakes. So go ahead, post the one that you would be most interested in, and then I'm going to speak to an important point based on our answers here. So if we come to me for a second, and we go to our comment thread, cross our fingers, do a bit of like a twirl. Please don't fall apart. I love it. Leonie says mistakes. M. Jane says blind spot. John says relationships mistakes. Nabila dating blind spot. Edwidge relationship mistakes. Says T. Dot and Edwidge. Tony readiness score. Jerry says mistakes. Gigi says readiness score. Now what's interesting about all that, no matter what answer you selected, is that we have to remember that we all walk into this process with a bias. So for those of us who are maybe dating right now, you might be more inclined to select dating blind spot. For those of us who are maybe thinking about getting into a relationship, you might be more inclined to pick the relationship readiness score. And if you're in a relationship right now, you might be more inclined to pick relationship mistakes. So what's important is the quiz topic that we choose, the big idea, is going to really dictate the type of prospect we attract. If you're looking to attract people who are dating right now, maybe dating blind spot is the way to go. If you're looking to attract people who are in a relationship, maybe it's relationship mistakes. So we want to be mindful of that. I'll go through another example. This is Ann Wilson, financial advisor. She helps in the wealth management space, helping people with financial planning, breaking free from debt, and investment strategy. You can see here, so for those of you who are professionals, you might get some ideas for your quiz big idea. Quiz, what's your wealth health score? Quiz, what's your money story identity? Quiz, what's your biggest freedom blocker? And quiz, what's your unique money flow type? So you can see here just a bunch of different examples all over the map kind of to kind of figure out which one is right for her market. I'll give you another example. Here, this is Dr. Aaron Choi, and he's in the metabolic reset market. So he's a naturopathic physician. He has a health and wellness practice, looking to get new patients and new clients. And you can see here some ideas for his metabolic reset quiz. Quiz, what's your metabolic health score? Quiz, what's your weight loss type? Quiz, what's your body's detox ability score? And finally, quiz, what's your body's #1 energy killer? Now, going through these ideas, my question for you is this in the comments: are you starting to kind of put the pieces together? Are you starting to kind of figure out what your quiz might be about? Are you starting to kind of get excited about like putting together your quiz and piecing it all together and coming up with that big idea? If you are, let me know in the comment thread. You can type in the word excited or whatever emotion you're feeling right now to let me know before we get to the process of how we actually test this big idea. So, up until this point, we've brainstormed a possible topic for your quiz. We kind of have these 5 frameworks that we use. We identified the framework for the quiz, type, killer, score, and how to decide which one might make sense for you and your business. Now we're going to get to step 3. Now step 3 in this process, make this a little bit bolder. Step 3, final step, is now that we've come up with our top 4 ideas, is to test our ideas. Now, the key thing that I want to convey here is this. Whenever my team and I, when we work together with a client, with a student, to come up with a quiz funnel, one of the things that we do is we go through this process of testing your quiz funnel before you actually take it live. It's critical that you test it before you create it, before you build it, before you launch it, because you want to set yourself up for success, right? Like, that makes sense. You want to test it before you actually build it. And we have a detailed process that we go through to do that. Now, today what I'd like to do is I want to show you a simple way that you can get an approximation for what the best idea might be among your short list of ideas. Now, it's certainly not as scientific as the process that we go through when we kind of do this for real, but it is going to give you some ideas around what quiz ideas are kind of the best, that your market is most responsive to, and which quiz ideas are the ones that probably are not a fit for your market. And so what you want to do is this. The first thing that you want to do is you want to pick the top 4 ideas based on everything that you've brainstormed. And to do that, I want to head over to our resource that we have here. So you want to pick the top 4 ideas, organized in this way here. As you can see, what's your topic plus framework? What's your, for example, skin type, fitness score, sleep profile, stamina killer, and so on and so forth. So you want to kind of understand what those are. Now, you might not word them in this exact way, but that just kind of gives you a starting point for what that looks like. You want to make sure that the quiz ideas that you're testing are different from one another. You want to make sure that you're not just testing like plural versus singular, or what mistake are you making versus which mistake are you making. Like, you want your tests to be what we call screams, not whispers. I'll say that again. Tests should be screams, not whispers. They should be radically different from one another. You don't want to test a different shade of purple. You want to test purple versus yellow. You want them to be radically different from one another so that you can test the differences in responsiveness in the market. Does that make sense? Is that cool? All right, so once you come up with your top 4 ideas, I want to give you a way that you can easily get a sense for which ideas your market is most resonating with. And in order to do that, I need to, just bear with me one second, I need to pull up my screen, and I want to get to a page I think I've gotten going. Let me zoom in on this. And that is to use a technique that you may have seen us use and me use a few short days ago inside the Facebook group. So check it out. You can see here, a few days ago, I posted a poll inside the Quiz Funnel Community Facebook group. And I asked a simple question. Hey, I'm thinking about creating a new quiz, but before I do so, I'd love to know which one are you most potentially interested in. Let me know by voting in the poll below. And if you take a look at the results, it's pretty obvious that there are some winners and there are some total losers. Right? So you notice here, if I hover over this one here, about over 226 people say, quiz, what type of quiz funnel is right for you and your business? Next up is what's the quiz funnel potential for your particular niche market, which is also a pretty solid idea. But then there are a couple ideas in here that the market just wasn't interested in at all, right? So quiz, what's the #1 quiz funnel mistake you might be making right now? And quiz, how much could a single quiz funnel be worth to you and your business? So just with this simple little poll, which by the way is 100% free to do, I'm able to, with relatively decent confidence, know which quiz funnel, which big idea is the one my market is most interested in. Now, as far as our next steps, as far as where to go from here, the next step in this process, once you've narrowed down your top 4 ideas, is to test that idea. And there's a whole bunch of different ways to do that. But one way that I'm going to encourage you to test and use and do this week is to use a Facebook poll. Now, importantly, you're not going to use a Facebook poll inside the Quiz Funnel community. So just to be clear, we would have literally like 10,000 different Facebook polls happening inside the Quiz Funnel community. So the Quiz Funnel community Facebook group is not a place to post your poll. If you do post a poll, the admins will take it down. So just to be clear about that. However, this is an opportunity to, if you have a group, if you belong to a group, or if there's no group that exists, to create a group for the purpose of getting intelligence on what quiz idea might be the right one for you and your market. And so it's really simple. You just create a poll inside a group that's filled with people that represent your ideal market. So for example, if you're in the golf market, you don't want to do that in a business group. You want to make sure that you do a poll in a golf group. If you're in the baking market, you want to do it in a group filled with bakers. You want to make sure that you're posting your poll in a group that is relevant to you and your market. And like I said, some of you have groups and you can just like do this straight away. Some of you might belong to groups, and if you don't, you can just do a search on Facebook for your niche topic, whether it's weight loss or baking or guitar or golf, or whatever it may be, and join a group. In that group, post a poll to figure out which one people might be most excited about. Now, remember, you're going to have to kind of set the stage a little bit with a little bit of wording to say, hey, I'm thinking about creating a quiz, but before I do that, I'd love to know which one you're most interested in. Do me a favor, click choose an option below to let me know. Now, there's a few important things you want to bear in mind when you set up your poll. And that is this. You want to make sure, number one, that people are only allowed to select one answer. So it's a setting that you choose when you create your poll. And you want to make sure that you've disabled the ability for people to add additional options. Otherwise, you're going to be left with like 100 different options that you're going to have to decide between. So you want to click those 2 settings. And inside the resource that I've shared with you here today, if we cut to me just for a second as I pull this up, inside the resource that I've shared with you here today, if you scroll down just a little bit further on the page, you'll see here that we've got sort of a step-by-step of how to do this, along with a link for instructions on Facebook on how to set up a poll if you've never done this before, if you're doing this for the first time. A few tips: you want to test 4 ideas to start. And what you want to be looking for is at least 25 responses. That's kind of like the starting point. Try to get at least 25 responses. In some cases, it's going to be very obvious, right? Like it's very obvious here, right out of the gate when we first launched this. Quiz funnel potential was a winning strategy, but how much could a single quiz funnel be worth to your business was a losing strategy. So sometimes it's very obvious right out of the gate. Sometimes it's a little bit closer. You can let it run. And then for those of you who are overachievers, I'm going to invite you to, once you've run your poll in the group that you're in, that you're part of, wherever it may be, to take a screenshot, just like I shared that screenshot there, and post that screenshot inside the quiz funnel community. And when you do that, post it with the hashtag, and I'll put this on the screen to make sure we all know this very well. So you'll post a screenshot like the one that you see here, and you'll post it with the hashtag #MyBigIdea. So it's a great way to kind of continue the momentum that you've got going, brainstorm the couple ideas that you think are possible winners for you and your business. And once you've done that, grab a screenshot of your poll, post it inside the quiz funnel community, and we'll see what we got. The purpose of this exercise is, again, to come up with the big idea behind your quiz. It's the first critical step, the first key step in the process. It's one that kind of is the first domino that starts to set everything else in motion. This testing process is a great way, if you can't decide between a few ideas, or maybe you're struggling to come up with something to get your market to help decide which one is the winner. And by the way, if you're stuck, if you want to just kind of brainstorm ideas, feel free to be active inside the private Facebook group, the Quiz Funnel Community. In fact, speaking of the Facebook group, starting tomorrow, I'm going to be hosting a live Q&A inside the Facebook group, same time, same channel, and the topic of this live Q&A is going to be coming up with your big idea. It's a Q&A session that I'm holding at this time, but inside the private Facebook group, to get your questions answered about today's specific training session. By the way, if you're not already in the group, you can do so by going to quizfunnel.com/Facebook. And when you do so, if you bear with me one second, when you do so, you're going to want to look for an announcement that looks like the one I'm pulling up on my screen right now that says this: Big idea questions. Post your question about the big idea behind your quiz, and I'll answer them on tomorrow's Q&A call. So you want to look for this post here. It's a post where I'm going to be answering questions, and I will say this: questions are reviewed on a first-come, first-served basis. So the faster you get your question in, the more likely you're going to get your question answered. So you want to head on over to that thread if you haven't done so already. For those of you who posted a question in the old question thread from session 1. If you posted your question after the cutoff, make sure you post that question here on this thread, because this is the only one that we'll be looking at for the session tomorrow, the Q&A session tomorrow. And I'll be taking some live possible quiz idea questions. We might actually come up with some quiz ideas live on the call. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A friendly reminder, if you haven't done so already, make sure you sign up for that secret text thread. You're going to get my notes not only from today, I'm going to include my notes from session 1 in case you may have missed them. It's also the way to get access to that bonus resource, 101 Profitable Quiz Ideas, which you're going to find incredibly helpful when it comes to brainstorming the possible quiz idea for your market. So you want to make sure that you do that as well. As far as what's coming up next, today the big focus was on your big idea, the first step in the process. And in the next session, session 3, which is happening on Friday this week, we're going to talk about how your big idea fits into the overall big picture of building your quiz. And together we're going to walk through the step-by-step quiz funnel blueprint that we follow whenever we're working with a business and we create, launch, and build a quiz funnel step by step. And I'm also going to be doing something that I know a bunch of you have been dying to see, and that's this. I'm going to be taking you for the very first time inside, behind the scenes of the actual technology for building your quiz funnel. And I'm going to be giving you the very first look of anybody in the general public at the brand new next generation quiz funnel software created on an AI platform that our team has been secretly building for the last 18 months. Now, this is going to be happening live at the same time, the same place, at 3 p.m. U.S. Central Time, 4 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Mountain Time on this Friday, which is the 19th. This Friday the 19th, and I'll be taking you inside the technology for actually getting this built for the very first time ever. So you've got to be there to see the entire quiz funnel blueprint, to see the secret technology to build these quizzes. Plus I've got some surprises and cool stuff in store. Now, before we wrap things up and recap our next steps one last time, what I'd love to invite you to do now is to take a moment to post your single biggest takeaway from today's session inside the comment thread. So use the word takeaway in all caps, biggest takeaway that you've had from today's session, post it in the comment thread. Let me know what that takeaway is. Takeaway could be maybe something we covered. Maybe you got your quiz idea. Maybe one of the examples just clicked the light bulb moment in your mind. Maybe you now have better clarity and deeper understanding about the 3 quiz frameworks. Maybe you have deeper understanding about the psychology behind why these frameworks work and so powerful. Maybe you have the reminder of the 5 big mistakes, the 5 different outcomes, the 6 types of businesses for whom quiz funnels make sense for. Maybe something in the recap finally clicked for you. Let me know in the comment thread what your biggest takeaway has been from today's session before we recap the next steps one more time. And one final thing that I want to leave you with, a little surprise before we wrap things up. So go into the comment thread, taking a look at what some of our takeaways are. If you bear with me one second, again, tempting fate, cross my fingers, close my eyes, hoping that we've got here. Awesome. So we've got big takeaways from Sarah. Says the question will determine the type of potential client who responds. Russell says the psychology. Serena says I can use more than one quiz framework takeaway. Business ideas. Every session has been mind-blowing. Tamara says clarity and deeper understanding. I can do this. Confidence booster, says Shelly. Takeaway, says Sue, testing with a poll instead of publishing. Takeaway, psychology. The 3 quiz framework, says Ayala. Java says takeaway, quiz idea ready to test. Kayla says I have my quiz framework decided. Killer, I can't wait to test my idea. Albert, yes, no questions. Odik says how to clarify and come up with the big idea. Donna, the 3 quiz frameworks. MJ said, love seeing other artists I know using this for their classes. Love it. Christoph, the biggest takeaway, start to understand how the system works. Testing the quiz in a Facebook group, how to determine the frameworks, says Gigi. Andrea says, big takeaway is a quiz idea, clarity on different frameworks and why they work. Robert says, takeaway, everything. Robin, the quiz examples. Laurel says, I can believe I have my quiz idea. Camille says, type is likely right for my market. So many great takeaways here. So, as a reminder, your homework today, your assignment today is to brainstorm your top 4 ideas. Once you've done that, post your ideas in the form of a poll in a Facebook group that's represented by your target market. Not in the quiz funnel community, but in your target market. Once you've done that and you've gotten at least 25 responses, take a screenshot of your poll, post with the hashtag #MyBigIdea. Do that inside the quiz funnel community and you'll be well on your way. We've set the foundation. Next session, session 3, we're going to be bringing it all together by looking at how the big idea fits into the overall big picture of creating a quiz funnel using something we call the step-by-step quiz funnel blueprint. So, with that being said, before we wrap here today, I've shared with you so far in our time together literally dozens of different stories of people who have transformed their life on the back of a quiz funnel. I shared with you Charlie Wallace and how he was able to pursue his dream and live his passion building a multi-million-dollar business on the back of his Guitar Progress Killers quiz. We've talked about Andy Mackinson and his wife Carrie and the business that he's built, $24 million a year, Snack Nation, providing healthy snacks to people around the world. You can see here Buck Risby and his partner, Dr. Steve Siskin, over $12 million a year on their weight loss type e-commerce quiz. We talked about Amy and her $5 million launch on the back of her course type quiz. We talked about Neil and his public speaker type quiz that took him from driving for Lyft 2 years ago to making over $100,000 a month. But I wanted to share one more story here today and share it in a little bit deeper way. The story of Jamal and Natasha. Jamal was the man who was making $17 an hour and went from working for his nonprofit at $17 an hour to making over $500,000 a year on the back of just one Ask Method quiz funnel, which has changed his life and his family's life forever. So, to leave you with a little motivation and a little inspiration to wrap our day today, I thought I'd end by sharing Jamal's story with you here now. Check it out.
So it was the night of July 21st, and my webinar was scheduled. I'm actually on the webinar, and Natasha goes into labor. My mom was there, and I'm like, babe, I just have to finish this webinar. And my mom gets Natasha to the hospital, and a friend of mine is like, bro, Natasha is going into labor. The baby's about to be here. So I rush through the webinar, and I get to the hospital, and I remember, I get to see Melody being born. And it was then that I had to think to myself, I almost missed her birth because of a webinar. And that's when I knew something needed to change. I was what we like to call single as a dollar bill. I was like, why am I still single? What am I doing wrong? And I remember in a moment of prayer, I was talking to God, and I was like, God, am I missing something? I don't know, where is she? What is she gonna look like? Did I miss her already? Like, please help me. And I remember God saying to me, Jamal, you're so focused on getting married, but you have no idea what it takes to stay married.
Watch your mother. Okay, how much she love you? Berate your father.
And this took me on a 1.5 year journey of learning how to have a successful marriage, because I saw that a lot of people's marriages don't go bad, they start bad. During that journey, I ended up finding my wife. We actually met on Facebook. We got married and filmed our story, and we call it the Facebook Love Story. Hey everybody, it's Jamal.
Hi, I'm Natasha.
And this is the story of how we met. It was cool because people all around the world began to take notice. And that's when someone was like, well, time out. Is this real? Is this a joke? And I looked at my wife, I was like, babe, these people really think that marriage is not working anymore. And so I said, let's create something. We ended up creating this brand called Married and Young. I had no idea what a blog was. I didn't have a background in marketing, no business degree. I was a ministry kid, so creating the blog was very new for me. At this point, it was simply just to help people to kind of change the narrative about marriage in our generation. One of my mentors calls me and he was like, hey, I saw you launch this blog. How many people are reading it? I was like, man, it's super cool. We got like 13,000 readers right now. And he's like, Jamal, you could be rich. I was like, what? Like, what do you mean rich? Like, how do you get rich off? We're just posting blogs on the internet. Like, how does that turn into money? I had no idea. And he's like, you don't have just a blog, you have a business. I was like, a business? He goes, yes, you have an online business. You need to monetize. And that's when I created my first book. But at this point in our journey, we're at 40,000 people a month coming into our website. So in my mind, I'm like, if I can just get 39,000 of them to buy the book, we're rich. Like, this is it. This is going to be our big moment of breakthrough. And I don't know what it is about writing books that we all think that it's just immediately going to turn into dollars. Well, it didn't happen. We made about $3,000 and a moment of reality hit that maybe this is not going to work the way I thought. And I kind of made a decision. I have a family to take care of. I'm a married man. My wife wants a kid. We need to get some things and some priorities in place. So I quit. And I left and went to a new job, making $17 an hour. And Natasha is 6 months pregnant, and we end up finding a way to make money through webinars. But it was not abundance, it was not overflowing. We were stuck in the same cycle every single week, going from webinar to webinar, and it was getting old. And also one of the things that it began to do was every week, I felt like I was having to sell my soul. And I remember at the point that she's about to have a baby, I literally was like, something has to change once Melody gets here. If I would have missed Melody's birth because of a webinar, I don't think I ever would have been able to forgive myself, because that would have been like the ultimate moment of me putting money before family. And it was actually after Melody was born, I made the decision to join the Ask Method Masterclass. It was one of those moments like I kind of felt like I was led to do it, because one of the first things I was most excited about was to create a quiz, and within the first week, we generate 10,000 leads from this quiz. And that's when I knew, oh my goodness, we have a real business on our hands. was cool because now we have these 10,000 people that we were able to do the DDS on. I went from making $17 an hour to generating at that same year, within 3 months, creating a product that would end up helping us to generate over $600,000 in revenue, simply because I now knew how to ask my audience the right questions to create the exact products that they need to solve their problems. We literally have over 4,000 people that we serve on a monthly basis. And then as well, we now are taking what we've done successfully in the singles brand and are now able to serve other niches and other demographics at a higher level because we know how to figure out what they want. The future is so bright because it isn't just staying in one business. We're creating multiple businesses that will be able to continue to help change the world. You hear most people, it's during their child's younger lives that they had to really sacrifice to be able to build a business. Now their kids are older and they regret the time they didn't get to spend with them when they were younger. Well, I don't want to have that story. My girls are my life. I get to share the world with them because to me, memories are so much more valuable than money. And we get to create memories with them whenever we want. And my business is providing that freedom to be able to do that.